Piers Morgan just released something explosive, and this time it's not another controversial opinion or tabloid headline. He claims to have fresh evidence that could completely destroy Meghan Markle's pregnancy story. The moment he mentioned it, the royal world went silent. Piers didn't ask a gentle question or dance around the subject when he dropped this revelation. Going straight for the truth that people were terrified to whisper out loud became his strategy. What if Meghan's pregnancy was completely fake from start to finish? That single sentence was just the opening act, because what comes next will shock you to your core and change everything you thought you knew. Following the trail Piers uncovered didn't end at Buckingham Palace or some fancy London hospital like you'd expect. It led somewhere far more disturbing, a small costume shop that nobody had ever linked to royalty before this investigation began. This wasn't your typical Halloween store with cheap plastic props gathering dust on shelves. This place specialized in building hyper-realistic prosthetic bellies used by professional actors in major Hollywood films. And that's where the story gets interesting. Someone connected to Meghan sent a detailed message with precise measurements, fitting instructions, and specific requirements for a custom pregnancy piece, according to the shop owner. Not a costume for some charity event or movie role, but something designed to look absolutely real and move like an actual pregnant belly during daily activities. This is the secret nobody was prepared to hear. And if even part of this allegation proves true, then Meghan's most personal story might be the biggest royal lie ever told to the public. This wasn't some toy store selling children's costumes or a basic Halloween shop with fake plastic bellies hanging on racks. At the center of this storm sits a business that creates hyper-realistic film prosthetics, so convincing that actors wear them under bright studio lights without anyone spotting the difference between real and artificial. Building new bodies, realistic scars, missing limbs, and yes, pregnancy bellies for Hollywood productions keeps this workshop busy year-round with major clients. According to the shop owner, one day a message arrived that changed everything about how they viewed their typical customer base and requests. Not a casual question or friendly inquiry about standard products, but a serious commission with professional specifications that caught their attention immediately. Meghan Markle or her representatives allegedly sent the message directly, and it wasn't vague at all about what they needed from this specialized business. Detailed body measurements, specific fitting requirements, and precision notes that only a professional prosthetic designer would understand filled the communication from start to finish. This wasn't for something simple or a quick costume order that most people would request from such a business. According to the owner, the request was for a custom-fitted pregnancy prosthetic shaped exactly to the wearer's body, crafted to move naturally during normal activities and designed to look completely real from every possible angle under any lighting conditions. Stun describes how the shop owner felt because these kinds of requests typically come from major film studios, production companies, or directors preparing for movie scenes, but never from a member of any royal household anywhere in the world. That detail about never receiving royal requests before is what made this story explode into something much bigger than anyone expected when it first surfaced online. Every story has a moment where the spotlight shifts dramatically, and in this one, attention moves away from Meghan and lands directly on Prince Harry's shoulders. During Meghan's pregnancy journey, Harry wasn't just a supportive husband standing quietly in the background while she handled everything. He was her defender, her shield, and her voice when she claimed to feel voiceless against media criticism and public scrutiny. Standing in front of cameras, holding her hand, telling the world she was strong, brave, hurting, and hopeful about their future together became his regular routine during public appearances. When the allegation of a prosthetic belly surfaced publicly, a new question echoed across the story like a bell nobody knew how to silence properly. Where exactly was Harry in all of this deception, and what did he know about any potential lies being told to the public? Truth splits into only two possible paths, and neither one offers comfort to anyone involved in this royal drama. Path 1 means Harry knew everything about the deception from day one of planning. If he knew, then he wasn't simply an innocent witness to his wife's pregnancy experience, he was an active partner in creating a polished story that looked like real life but contained fundamental lies at its core. Helping to protect the deception, present it to the world, and defend it against critics would make him complicit in allowing millions of people to believe something that maybe wasn't true at all about their family. That version paints Harry as someone willingly shaping a false narrative, someone who saw the illusion clearly and helped keep it alive for months while lying to everyone who trusted them. Path 2 means Harry didn't know about any deception happening right under his nose, which is even darker because questions arise immediately about their marriage. How does a man who lives with his supposedly pregnant wife every single day fail to notice something this massive about her condition? What kind of wall exists between two married people for this level of deception to work successfully without detection over many months? For Meghan and Harry, reputation isn't just important for their public image, it represents their entire livelihood and future survival strategy in the entertainment world. Walking away from royal duties meant they didn't take titles, palaces, power, or centuries-old influence with them when they left England for California. Taking their personal story became everything because that story transformed into their shield, their selling point, their Hollywood handshake, and their global brand that companies invest billions in annually. Netflix producers invested in their emotions and personal struggles rather than their royal connections when signing those massive deals. Major corporations partnered with their reinvention narrative instead of their titles when writing checks for endorsement deals worth millions. Millions of followers believed in their journey from royal life to independent success, making their authenticity the foundation of everything they've built since leaving. Influence wasn't built on crowns or castles in their new life. It was built entirely on belief that ordinary people could relate to their struggles, belief that their words were honest, their journey was authentic, and their struggles were completely real experiences rather than manufactured drama for public consumption. A pregnancy allegation, especially one involving motherhood, vulnerability, and heartache, shakes the entire foundation of everything they've constructed since stepping away from royal duties. If Meghan ever requested a prosthetic belly, even once, even hypothetically for any reason, then the entire world gets forced into a deeper, darker psychological rabbit hole about their credibility. Who actually carried the real pregnancies if the bellies were fake during public appearances? Who gave birth to Archie and Lilibet if surrogates were involved in the process? What does that mean for everything we believed about their family story and the authenticity of their emotional appeals to the public? These questions aren't small gossip or tabloid noise designed to sell magazines. They represent cracks that split straight down the center of a royal story that was supposed to be unbreakable and authentic. Once the idea exists in public consciousness, once the shopkeeper's allegation gets any serious attention from media outlets, people's minds begin following the only logical path available to them. If the belly was fake during public appearances, then what parts of their entire story were real versus manufactured for public consumption? Doubt operates as a strange creature that doesn't burst through doors with anger or demand immediate attention from everyone in its path. Slipping in quietly, soft as a shadow in the early morning, it suddenly makes everything look completely different than it appeared before the questions started. That's exactly what happened after this allegation surfaced in media coverage. People didn't scream or riot in the streets. They simply paused and started questioning everything they thought they knew. In that pause, the entire story changed forever in ways that can never be completely undone or forgotten. Belly rubs Meghan shared during royal tours, once seen as sweet motherly moments that connected her with other women, now look suspicious to observers who wonder about authenticity. Photos of her holding her bump, once seen as tender and genuine expressions of maternal love, now sit under a quiet cloud of suspicion about whether anything was real during those carefully staged moments. Interviews about loneliness and pain, tears in documentaries, speeches about motherhood and struggle, all of them are being rewatched in a completely new light that strips away the original emotional impact. Not with hatred, but with hesitation, and questions about whether everything was genuine or performed specifically for public consumption and media manipulation. Doubt doesn't erase memories from people's minds, but it recolors them in ways that can never be completely reversed once the seed is planted. People begin wondering whether everything was authentic emotional expression or if something was being performed specifically for cameras and public sympathy. This isn't about blame or hatred directed at any individual. It represents a fundamental shift in how people see the story and interpret every moment they witnessed. Innocence slips away gradually and absolute certainty melts into uncomfortable uncertainty about what was real versus what was manufactured. Once doubt settles into a story this personal and emotional, it rarely leaves completely no matter what evidence emerges later to contradict the suspicions. Every explosive revelation reaches a point where the world holds its breath, waiting to see what evidence comes next to either confirm or destroy the allegations completely. This story has now arrived at exactly that moment. because somewhere out there sits a shopkeeper who claims to have been approached with a very specific request that could change royal history. Custom-made pregnancy prosthetic built with cinematic precision and professional specifications represents the kind of evidence that could transform speculation into documented fact. If that shopkeeper ever steps forward with concrete proof like a receipt, an invoice, an email chain, a photograph, or production records, then this story doesn't just become another scandal that fades with time. It becomes a historic rupture that completely rewrites Meghan's public identity, tears down what millions believed was real about her family, and creates ripples through Hollywood, the royal world, and every interview Meghan ever gave about motherhood and authenticity. Even without proof being made public yet, something irreversible has already happened to their reputation that can't be undone through public relations campaigns. Waiting has become the new normal, but not for Meghan's next speech or Harry's next interview where they address their critics and defend their choices. People wait for the next piece of evidence to surface from someone with direct knowledge of what actually happened behind the scenes. Because once the idea of a massive secret enters any story, every corner of that story becomes a question mark that demands investigation and verification. Who else knew about this alleged deception if it actually occurred as claimed? How long did any deception last if the allegations prove accurate? Why would such elaborate deception be necessary for a royal pregnancy announcement? What was the long-term plan if prosthetic devices were actually used during public appearances? This chapter holds all the tension and silence before a storm that may or may not come, representing the moment where possibility transforms into real power over public opinion and media coverage. Most stories end when the curtain drops and credits roll, signaling that the narrative has reached its natural conclusion and everyone can move on. This one ends differently, because the curtain is actually rising on something much bigger than anyone anticipated when this investigation first began. This isn't the end of Meghan's story in any sense. It represents the beginning of a new chapter that she doesn't control, one shaped entirely by unanswered questions, powered by growing doubt, and carried by the possibility that something deep inside their fairy tale was never real at all. People aren't waiting for closure or happy endings anymore like they did when Harry and Meghan first left royal life for California. Waiting for truth, whatever that truth might reveal about their family and their honesty, has become the new focus of public attention and media coverage. People wait to see whether the shopkeeper speaks publicly with evidence, whether concrete proof appears from other sources, and whether the quiet question that started all this will finally find a definitive answer that settles the matter once and for all. This story now lives in a strange space between what was officially said and what might have actually been done behind the scenes during those carefully managed public appearances. A space where carefully crafted illusions start to wobble under scrutiny. A space where polished performances begin to unravel when subjected to detailed investigation. A space where truth, whatever it really is, stands on the other side of a curtain, ready to step forward and change everything people believed about this royal couple and their journey to independence. When that moment of truth arrives, and it seems increasingly likely that it will arrive rather than simply fade away like other royal scandals, the world will be watching closely with intense interest. Not because they want to see anyone destroyed or humiliated, but because they want this story to finally finish the sentence it began years ago when they first announced their departure from royal duties and their plans for a new life. For now, the lights don't dim, the music doesn't fade, and the ending doesn't settle into anything comfortable or predictable for anyone involved. Waiting continues on the stage. The audience leans forward with anticipation, and the most explosive part of this story has only just begun to unfold in ways that nobody can control or predict. Real tragedy of this entire investigation isn't just what it reveals about Meghan Markle or Prince Harry as individuals. It represents what it shows us about the world we're living in, and how quickly truth can become completely irrelevant when people want to believe something different. Whether Piers Morgan's prosthetic belly allegation proves true or false almost doesn't matter anymore, because damage to public trust has already been done and can never be completely undone through any future revelations or evidence. Millions of people have now heard these claims and will always have doubts about the authenticity of Meghan's pregnancies, her children's legitimacy, and her basic honesty about the most personal aspects of her life and family. Moving on to analyze every future photo, video, and public appearance through the lens of suspicion and assumed deception has become the new normal for conspiracy theorists who profit from this content. This story represents something much bigger and more frightening than royal gossip or celebrity drama. It shows how modern disinformation campaigns can turn any personal experience into a profitable conspiracy theory that destroys lives while making money for the people spreading lies. Organized groups that created and promoted these theories prove that you can build an entire business around hatred if you're strategic enough about it. And social media platforms will allow it to continue as long as it generates clicks and advertising revenue for their companies. For Meghan and Harry, this conspiracy will follow them forever, no matter what evidence they provide or how many times they prove their honesty about other issues in their lives. Growing up knowing that millions of people question their very existence and their parents' truthfulness about their births will be the reality for their children throughout their entire lives. Most disturbing aspect is that this same playbook is already being used against other public figures, especially women of color who dare to challenge traditional power structures or speak out about injustice and discrimination. Moving on to target other celebrities and public figures with the exact same tactics proves that Meghan was just the testing ground for a much larger assault on truth itself and factual reporting. In the end, the real question isn't whether Meghan Markle wore a prosthetic belly or used a surrogate during her pregnancies. The real question is what happens to society when profitable lies become more powerful than documented truth. When destroying someone's reputation becomes a legitimate business model that platforms actively support and promote through their algorithms and advertising systems, the consequences extend far beyond any single royal scandal, extending into the very foundation of how we decide what's real and what's not. In the modern world represents the true danger here. That question doesn't have an easy answer, and the consequences of that failure will be felt for generations to come, in ways we can't even imagine yet.